You would think the amount of webinars that we've done, I would remember to hit the record button, but sometimes you just still forget. All right. So now we are in business. Good deal. All right. So a few more seconds before we get going. I will let you guys know that I'll check out the chat feature after the presentation. So if you feel like you've got some things that you would like to ask, feel free to use that chat. I'll see what I can do about answering any questions you may have. So we'll go ahead and get started. It is time, it is 9 o'clock, and thank you all for being with me today. My name is Whitney, and I'm the manager of fitness services with University Recreation, and I really enjoy doing these webinars. This is always fun for me to do. I like doing stuff more in person, and I think hopefully we're going into that direction. So hopefully you'll see me more in person at some events rather than on a screen. But just a little bit about myself before we get going, just so you can kind of get to know me a little bit. I work over at the rec center, so I'm the manager, and I oversee fitness services. So that's all of our personal training services, fitness testing, group exercise, Pilates reformer. You've probably seen the little Pilates reformer video. That's me in there with a face mask on, so you can kind of see half my face. But yeah, I get to oversee all of that. I have two coordinators that I work with that basically they do all the scheduling and managing of that part with our employees, but I get to oversee the whole program, which has been, really great, and I really enjoy my job. I've been teaching exercise classes, yoga, Pilates for some time now. I actually started doing that when I was in undergrad as a student here at UA, when I was getting my degree in exercise and sports science. And I started out as a dance major, and so I've always kind of been in the fitness world, but I would say within the last 10 to 12 years, yoga and Pilates have kind of been my my number one focus. And so I'm excited to get to talk about yoga a little bit today, maybe kind of bust some myths, give you some insight, because I personally believe that yoga is healing mentally and emotionally. And I think those of you that have never actually tried yoga before, hopefully I can kind of get you thinking about it and excited about it. So we'll just jump right in. So this is yoga basics. So we're not going to get into any crazy stuff or anything like that. We're going to keep it pretty basic with our philosophies and info that we're going to cover. So what is yoga? I'm sure all of us have seen yoga, people doing yoga, have heard of what, kind of the idea of yoga before, but it is a comprehensive system for well-being. And I think that's where we kind of forget that it's not just physical. There is a very big physical component to yoga, but it's a lot more emotional, spiritual, and philosophical, and it's a philosophy. It's not a religion. It has some influences from some Eastern religions, but that's where it originated, was about 5,000 years ago in India. I will say my little dog is beside me and she's snoring, so she's chilled out. So if you hear a little snore, that would be her. I can hear it very well. It is an individual experience. So I think sometimes in our Western culture, yoga is kind of portrayed throughout social media, throughout, infomercials of what it is. And, it's kind of off-putting sometimes because it is a very personal, individual experience. What I experience on my mat and in the studio doing yoga is going to be something completely different than what you may experience. And I think that's what's so great about yoga. It's a personal journey. And we always call it our yoga practice because we're always learning about ourselves through yoga. And it's always, you're never going to quite achieve what you think you're going to achieve. You're going to achieve something different every day. And so I think that's what's really cool about the practice of yoga. There's a lot of forms of yoga. If you were just to go on YouTube or Google and just type in yoga, you are going to find a ton, and it's very overwhelming to know where to start. My advice is, if you're looking at yoga for the first time, just go in with an open mindset. If you see some really cool, fancy things happening online, then, just honor that and acknowledge it. I don't personally practice a lot of fancy stuff. I keep it very basic myself. But just be mindful that there are many forms, there's many variations, and there's not one style that fits the yoga, philosophy and idea. Um, our primary goal in yoga, surprisingly, is it's not necessarily fitness. Yoga started more for meditation and spiritual well-being and mind-body connection, being able to connect to something greater and bigger than yourself. You can factor yoga into your personal religious practices. It can enhance that. So the goal of fitness kind of comes like on the side. You get those benefits of well-being and becoming more fit and feeling more flexible, stronger, things like that, because of the movements and the stretches and the strengthening exercises that you do in your yoga practice. It just kind of comes along. It's for anyone and you can do it anywhere. And I think that's always a misconception, that you have to have a yoga studio. I mean, I've got a little space in my house, obviously. You can see that I enjoy going and doing yoga and dancing because I'm a dancer, and having that space, but it can also be done in your office. It can be done at a park. Uh, it can be done out in front of people. It's just kind of more accepted nowadays to just grab your mat, or don't grab a mat and just go on the grass, go to the quad and do some yoga. It also involves breath and the relationship of movement. So for those of us that have exercised before, you've always heard, a fitness professional or just, info about exercising to inhale and exhale, to make sure that you're taking deep breaths to release energy. Well, yoga, we want to breathe and release energy, but at the same time, we also focus on harnessing energy, and our breath is really important. And we'll kind of talk about that shortly. And it also creates a simple way to meditate. Meditation doesn't have to be this super in-depth thing that you have to go into a closed off room. I mean, it can be, but we have to think about baby steps. And I think when we let go of expectations, and when we let go of what our perceptions of yoga is, or what the world makes yoga out to be, we can kind of step back and look at it, again, our individual experience. So let's talk about breathing. This is one of the 8 limbs of yoga. The pranayama, if you want to be fancy with it, that is focusing on the breath. Your breath is your life force. We know that when we're born, we take a breath as soon as we come out of the womb, and then when we die, we take our last breath. And when you think of it that way, it kind of changes the outlook of yoga. It kind of changes the mindset of, I'm not just doing it to be physically fit and to look a certain way. I'm doing it to live my life, to be able to get in air, to energize the body, to oxygenate the muscles. And so it's really important. One thing I kind of like to talk about when it comes to breathing and incorporating that into your daily lives is looking at your sympathetic nervous system and your parasympathetic nervous system. So these are 2 branches of the nervous system that basically they counterbalance each other. When you think about your sympathetic, this is like your fight or flight. This is what I feel like for most of us, it's kicked on all the time. It's kind of that chronic stress. We need the sympathetic nervous system. It's not that we don't need it. It's just that sometimes, unfortunately, it is on a lot. It's on 24/7. I've done a talk over at DCH at the Cancer Center to some of the cancer patients, and we've talked about gentle yoga and how it can be beneficial, for people living in chronic stress, whether it's related to disease or just mentally, we need that break. And the sympathetic nervous system, like I said, is your fight or flight, and so this is the one that is kind of on all the time. And what we try to do in yoga is we try to kick on the parasympathetic nervous system, which is your chance to rest. This is the chance, we call it your rest and digest. So it kicks on when you've finally felt some rest and relaxation in your day. When you've eaten a big meal, and I don't know if you guys have, noticed this, but I'll use like a Thanksgiving meal or like a Christmas meal or whatever that, you do, after you've eaten that huge meal and you kind of just need to chill out because all your blood is going to your gut to, digest the food. That's your parasympathetic nervous system, blood going away from the head to that area to, basically digest your meal. So what yoga does is it promotes that relaxation. It helps to slow the heart rate. It happens within your practice. So when you first start a yoga practice, and you're going through the motions, you're going through the process of a yoga practice, a yoga class. And when you get to the very end of your yoga practice and you're in that final relaxation phase, you can actually feel that kick on, which is pretty cool. You've exerted energy, you've cleared the mind. And so at that point, you're able to, what we call in yoga, we take our little nap at the end. So we'll talk about that and kind of what a yoga class actually looks like for those of you that maybe never experienced that before. So we definitely want to reduce chronic stress. I think we can all agree within the past year and a half, there's been unnecessary extra stress on top of life. And so sometimes we don't get the rest that we need. And it's when we go to bed at night and we're restless, when we can't fall asleep, or when we wake up in the middle of the night and we can't seem to stay asleep. So it all kind of goes together. It definitely can calm us, and move us away from that sympathetic nervous system kicking on to the parasympathetic. And we know that breathing, I mean, we hear it all the time. Breathing is beneficial. You need to be breathing. You need to be taking deep breaths. And, while that's great and everything, sometimes we just don't really understand or know how to breathe. And so we'll talk about, how we actually do that here shortly. We know that, breathing helps to reduce our blood pressure. It can reduce the risk of disease because we are taking in fuller breaths. We are, using the lungs and the capacity that they're meant to be used. And I always think about this, when you're a baby or when you see a baby breathing and resting, they don't have any worries. They don't have any stress. And so their breath pattern is a lot more deep and fulfilling rather than us. We've lived life and our breath is a little bit more shallow. And so we can kind of learn how to practice some breathing techniques to move us, into that parasympathetic calming part of our nervous system. So let's just kind of try breathing together. There's a lot of breaths out there. Okay. When you start Googling yoga breathing and breaths, you are going to find a lot. The breath that I'm going to just teach you is just our basic yoga breath. This is what we do when we try to connect breath with our movement. It's called a 3-part breath, and it's a visualization technique. So let's just all sit, comfortably in our chairs, just sitting up nice and tall, feet are flat on the floor. Posture is huge, actually. When you don't have good posture and when you're just kind of slumped over, you just can't take a full breath in. It's just not possible. The moment you sit up tall and you increase the capacity, it's much better, just hands down. Now we'll give a quick little disclaimer. If you tend to get dizzy a lot, whether blood pressure plays into effect or you just have some asthma, breathing difficulties, be mindful of your breath, because a lot of times when people take in a full breath and they get that full gulp of oxygen, it can kind of make you a little fuzzy in the head. So just, be mindful. Breathing is the first step in yoga. And so we have to start small. So in yoga, we breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. And there's a couple of reasons why we do that. Number one, it helps us to build heat from within, to kind of harness our energy, to use that in our poses and our postures in class. So when we breathe through the nose, it also helps us to meditate and find focus in our breath. When you release the air out, there's this release. You're letting it out into the world instead of keeping it harnessed in. So if you do yoga and you get a little heat buildup and it makes you dizzy, it makes you lightheaded, by all means, exhale through the mouth. We're not going to sit here and tell you, you have to, you know, keep breathing through your nose. We want you to feel comfortable. So we do breathe in and out the nose. If you have some sinus issues like I sound like I have right now, then you can definitely exhale through the mouth because it's a little bit better. So let's go ahead and sit up tall. So we do a 3-part breath. So I want you to think about your lungs and the capacity of your lungs. You have the very bottom part of the lungs, you have the middle, and you have that upper chamber. And so we think about the breath that way. So as we inhale, we take the breath into the lowest part, and then the middle, and then to the throat. And it can kind of make you a little uneasy at first. So just, try it, give it a shot. Your breath is going to depend on your lung capacity, right? So some of us will take a breath for like 4 to 5 counts, like 1, 2, 3, and 4. Some of us will go a little bit longer. So I'm just going to give us a little bit of silence right now. And I want you to close your eyes, sit up really nice and tall, and I want you to find a count that's comfortable for you. It can be 1 to 3, it can be all the way to 6, and I want you to exhale that same amount of counting. So just try it with me. Taking a deep breath, let's inhale through the nose, lowest part of the lungs, filling into the middle, filling into the chest and the throat, and then exhaling. So let's do that again. Deep breath, inhaling through the nose. And exhaling. And one more time, inhaling through the nose. And exhaling. So just kind of your own reflection on your breathing, just thinking about how that actually felt for you. If it felt difficult, acknowledge it. It's okay. That's just how it is today. If it felt great, acknowledge that too. In yoga, we kind of let go of our expectations. We let go of our competition and any judgment that we have with ourselves or with others. And so, if you felt labored in your breathing, if you felt like it wasn't as easy as you would have liked for it to be, it's okay. It's your personal inventory, and it is what it is. There is a belly breath. So you've kind of heard of like the Buddha breath of like inhaling and expanding the belly. That's super beneficial when it's hard to get a breath in your chest. And I will let y'all know, I had COVID recently and thankfully got through it, but I could notice that my breathing was hindered. I don't know any of you that have felt that same way. The yoga breath actually was very helpful and very beneficial when dealing with that illness. Learning how to use that breath a little deeper and lower in the diaphragm and pushing the diaphragm down allows you to take a bigger breath if you have some of that tightness in your chest. So just keeping that in mind if this is something that hopefully, God forbid, you go through that, but it was very helpful. So that's our breathing. It's one of our 8 limbs in yoga. Then we have, of course, the physical side. Now, this is where people are really interested because physical activity is huge. We're still in the beginning of this semester. New Year's resolutions and goals and things like that are still at the forefront. And so physical side of it is very important. And there's kind of some ways I like for us to look at this. Being in exercise and this being something that I do on a regular basis, I view the body very differently. I view the body in planes. And if you've ever learned about the anatomical position of the body, just standing face forward, palms forward, which is our mountain pose in yoga, you learn how to kind of divide the body up into 3 different areas. And so we always want to make sure that we're moving forward and back, side to side, and in some type of rotational movement. And it goes even deeper. It goes down to functional fitness and just being able to move through daily life, reaching up and behind you to grab something, reaching down and behind you, reaching down toward your feet. So moving in these different planes. And so yoga does challenge that. So let's talk a little bit about some things that you can be doing in your office. How you can, incorporate some of that stuff into your work day. And like I said, yoga doesn't have to be this practice that you take an hour out of your day. Yoga can be 5 minutes. It can be 1 minute. It doesn't matter. So the first thing is chest opening and finding an extended position of the spine. So we are all in front of computers, even myself. I sit in front of a computer probably 50% of the day, if not more some days. And it's this sense of hunched over, rounded shoulders, neck out of alignment. And so a chest opening posture in yoga is to create this opening in the chest, to open the heart chakra, to help us breathe a little bit better. And it's an extension of the spine. So we are always in a forward flex position, unfortunately. And so it causes us to have tight chest muscles, overstretched upper back muscles. And so what we need to do is work on strengthening the upper back and stretching the chest. And it's very easy to do. So all you're going to do, I'm actually going to kind of shift my chair back a little bit so you can see, and I'll do it in a seated position. Chest opening, what I like to do is take my hands, turn them in, and reach back and try to touch my hands behind me, okay? So now I'm going to show you just a standing position, and hopefully everybody can see me. So I turn to the side, I take my hands behind me, and I open my chest. And it's almost like I'm squeezing into like a beach ball. There's a difference between interlacing your fingers and trying to open your chest here, because we put more emphasis on the upper back. I don't want you to think about the upper back as much. In yoga, we want to think about expanding across the chest. You'll get the strength in the upper back. So it's super simple. And literally every single class I teach, it doesn't matter if it's yoga, Pilates reformer, a cardio class, strength, I will do chest expansion multiple times because we all need it. So if you want to try it with me, feel free to stand up and do it, or you can do it seated. I just prefer standing because we sit all the time. So hands are going to be facing in towards your thighs. You're going to reach your hands back. Think about your heart actually lifting up towards the sky, and you're squeezing into this beach ball. You're retracting your shoulder blades in towards each other to open the chest. And that creates that opening, that creates that stretch. Now, some of us might need to go a little, slower if we haven't done this type of stuff. And so, of course, you're just going to be mindful. Now, the opposite of that, okay, this is an extended open chest position of the spine. The opposite would be that rounded position, which is a cat-cow. So you've heard of cat-cow. There's lots of ways you can do cat-cow. You can do it on your hands and knees. You can do it standing, and I'll just show you a standing version. So hands can come to your knees. Cat is a rounded position. This is great to stretch the low back. And then the cow is the extended position. So instead of thinking about dropping your belly to the floor, think extending, think back extension. It's all the same. So you're going to reach your chest forward rather than dropping your belly to the floor, okay? So we need to be moving in an extended position and a flexed position, because that's just how our spine moves. Our spine moves in a flexed extended position, forward and back. It also moves in this lateral flexing position and twisting, okay? So if you can move your spine that way, that's what yoga is so great about, because you're gonna get those things when you do yoga. So the next one is lateral side bending and twisting. I just said that, but to me, along with chest expansion and your lateral side and your flexing, you should be doing lateral side bending every day. So when we sit a lot, we get really tight in the low back. I think we all know that. I don't even have to teach you that. You already know this kind of stuff. But we need to be practicing on a side bend over. We get really tight in our QLs, which are the muscles that help flex the spine side to side. And it just happens over time. So when we come into a side bend, I like to instruct participants to reach up and out of the rib cage to expand those intercostal muscles. Number one, that's going to help you breathe better and expand the rib cage. And then number two, it just feels really good. So why not? So we reach up and then over. So rather than trying to touch the, like reach down towards the floor, we want to think of expansion. We want to think of opening the body as wide and as big as we possibly can. So we come into this more extended position. And I'm actually, one of the cues that I use when I'm teaching is you want to lift your rib away from your hip bone. So you want to pick the rib up and lift it away from your hip bone. Okay, so chest opening, I would do that, you know, when you're sitting at your desk. And I mean, heck, you could stand up. I would rather you stand up and do it. And then adding in your side bending. It's very important to have some control and some strength in the low belly and in the abdominals when you come into side bending, because you can easily pull a muscle in your back. It seems like such a light little exercise, but to be honest with you, I have seen a lot of people go straight into a big side bend without bracing the core and hurting themselves. So what that means when you brace your core, I'll just give you a little quick anatomy lesson. You have your rectus abdominis, so it starts at the bottom of your sternum, xiphoid process, all the way down to your pubic bone. So it's this really long sheath of muscles. There's no upper and lower abs, it's all connected. So when you brace your core, it's this sense of almost like you have on a pair of pants or a belt that you're trying to like button and you can't button, you know, that when it's like right there and you need to button it. So you kind of lift the belly in and up. That little bitty lift of the belly in and up kicks on your transverse abs, and it actually creates this kind of elongation in the spine with the muscles. So it actually takes pressure off the spine. So good posture, pulling in the abdominals, lengthening the spine, which is just engaging the muscles to kind of take pressure off the disc, will support the core. So you can do it seated. I always like to do it standing, but if you can visualize your abdominals, this whole long sheath of muscles, which is what they are, engaging and lifting and pulling the low belly in, you actually build a little internal energy that way, and you're supporting your back. So just a little anatomy lesson for you to think about. And I would always do that when you're doing twisting, when you're doing any type of spinal movement, find that lift of the belly button. One thing I will kind of instruct in classes, because I think it's a little difficult to visualize, is if you were to take your hand on your stomach. So I've got my or my belly, stomach's not there, but your thumb on your belly button and then your hand here, and you sit up tall, relax shoulders. If you think about pulling your belly away from your hand, you're not sucking in, you're pulling your belly away from your hand. You're still feeling the hand on the belly. You just can draw the belly away. That is that sense of core engagement that I'm talking about. So that might help some of you kind of find that. Okay. All right. So we always want to have core engagement when we are moving laterally, when we are twisting the spine, we twisted the rib cage. Okay. Any type of spinal movement. So keep that in mind for sure. Hip extension. So we get a lot of opening in our hips when we do yoga. That is like your lunges and your stretch and your hip flexors. So we already know we're super tight in our chest because we're at a computer, but we're also super tight in our hip flexors, which makes our glutes super lazy and they're not kicked on and helpful like they should be. So a hip extension stretch is anytime the leg is in a hip extended position. So I'll scoot back a little bit. So this position here, this is a flex position. This is how we are all the time seated. This is an extended position. So in yoga, we do things like a lunge where we're opening up that hip, where we're inhaling the arms up and trying to breathe and stretch out that muscle group. We should be doing that all the time. You can, grab your chair in your office, hold on to it, take the leg back, press up on the toe, and just hold a lunge. And focus on that deep 3-part breath to open those hips up. The other part of that is your hamstring. So, if we're in a hip flex position seated, we're also in a knee flex position which is engaging the hamstrings, making that muscle short and tight. So hamstring stretch is just the opposite. We do a ton of that in yoga. Anytime you do a forward fold and you're touching your toes, anytime your leg is out in front of you and you're reaching down to touch your toes there to lengthen behind the knee, that will reduce low back pain and tightness as well. So if you don't have an interest in coming to a yoga class, at least keep these exercises and these stretches in mind so you can relieve some tension for sure. All right, so it's good to get up and move around. So I encourage you to do that for sure. In yoga, we try to do more dynamic movement. Hatha yoga, vinyasa flow, if you've ever heard those types of terms, that is moving and flowing. And at the rec center, that's how we teach. We teach anywhere from a 45-minute class to an hour-long class. And we're not just going to have you hold a posture for like 5 minutes. We take a different approach. We keep it moving because we believe that range of motion and moving through the joint and creating that healthy balance and getting the fluids in the joints, lubricating the joint is super important. And to be honest, it's really hard for a new person to do yoga and hold a pose for like longer than 30 seconds. I mean, it's very tiring and it's just hard to do. So we flow through exercises. We flow and we do a warrior two into like a side bend and back and forth. So it kind of helps take your mind off of it where you're not just holding it for, minutes. All of these postures that we do create awareness. What's really cool about yoga is you learn a lot about your weaknesses and your strengths. And it's okay to acknowledge those weaknesses because that's how we get stronger. So if anything, I would encourage you to do some of these physical exercises, just in your office or at home or wherever. All right, so let's talk about, kind of what a yoga class looks like. I would love to have everybody come to my yoga class. I'll just put a quick little shout out to the rec center. We do have an online registration system now where you can go and just pre-register for a class, and it's super helpful because you don't have to worry about getting in line for a pass. You can still just show up if you want to see if there's a spot in the standby line, but it's really, really worked out well for us and our participants. And so you could sign up for a class if you have a membership. It is free. If you don't have a membership, I would love for you to email me and I'll give you a free pass so you can just come and take my class and try it out. But here's the basic rundown of a yoga class, because I think a lot of times people don't know what to expect. And this is what you can expect when you come to the rec center and you take one of our classes. You're always going to do some form of a warm-up. That's just the way it goes. Anytime you exercise, you're going to warm up the body to reduce the risk of injury. You don't want to get hurt. I don't want anybody getting hurt. The first part of the class, the first 2 to 3 minutes is honestly breathing and meditation. It is breathing and either lying down. So if you've had a rough day, you come in, throw your mat down, lay down, and we get it. We know we're completely fine with that, and we want you to relax. It's your chance just to shut everything out and to find that mental part of yoga where you're connecting to your mat, your space. We will do some very light stretches, cat-cows, different types of down dog variations, warming up the feet, the hamstrings. It's slower pace in the warm-up. Different types of squats, forward folds, different flows that get you prepared for what's going to happen in the class. So if you're curious about, well, is this class going to be too hard for me? I mean, you kind of make it your own. So if there's something that's not working for you, you use a different variation that myself or another instructor would give you. So you warm up for about, 10 minutes or so, moving into a sun salutation, which again is a type of flow involving forward folds and lunges, and it continues to build throughout the class. And then we have our work phase. So this is when we get into our asanas, which is just a word for postures, where we get into a little bit longer holds. Like I said, we're not holding, for minutes upon minutes, but we are holding and breathing and trying to find that mind-body connection and understand what we're feeling. And then we're flowing between those. So this is when you are starting to breathe a little deeper. You're starting to increase your awareness. You're starting to sweat a little bit. You're starting to create that response to the exercises. And then we kind of slow it back down with balance. Balance is critical. Balance is important. We should all be doing balance every single day. As we get older, our balance gets worse. And I have seen many participants increase their stability and balance by coming to yoga. I have one lady at one facility I teach at, and she is 70, I think. Yeah, maybe 70 or 71. And this lady's balance is great for her age. And it's all because she has been coming and doing yoga with us. And I mean, she goes near a wall, which we encourage for a little extra support, but you're still working on the ankle stability. You're still working on the core strength. And it's just super important. It helps us to mentally connect with what we're doing, to start that cool down phase, to allow the relaxation to start to kick in, to let the parasympathetic nervous system, start to take over. So balance, super important. And then the best part is after you've done your balance, excuse me, you move into deeper stretches that feel good. These are your stretches that are down on the floor. So our participants always know that once we've done balance and we come into a child's pose on the mat, we're kind of in the home stretch. It's that point where, okay, I'm not going to have to stand back up again until class is over. So mentally, I can just relax. And I think that's super important to know that is what happens at that point in class. So we go into some deeper stretches, mostly seated, sometimes lying down on your belly or on your back, and being, just comfortable, just enjoying it. And then the very best part is once you've done all of that, you get to rest. You have about, 3 to 6 minutes, depending on the length of your practice, to literally lay on your mat and close your eyes and not have to do anything. And so if anything, I think that should be super enticing for people to want to try yoga, because you've worked and you've done your work phase, and then you get a reward, and your parasympathetic nervous system is like so happy and kicking into gear, and it's great. And our participants usually really look forward to that. It helps you sleep better at night. I encourage participants to do yoga. I mean, any time of the day is perfect, but in the afternoon, especially after work, if you can go to a yoga class or do a practice, that's awesome. That will make you zen out and relax, hopefully. A practice can be 20 minutes. It can be up to 2 hours. Depends on your practice and what you're looking to do. Okay. Hopefully I'm convincing some of you guys to want to take a nap with us at the rec center, because that's what we do. So let's talk a little bit about the mental and emotional. Emotional and mental definitely go hand in hand, I think sometimes our emotions can come out in our yoga practice. Don't be surprised if the first time you ever take a class, you feel a little emotional. It sounds kind of crazy, but sometimes when you can honestly let things go, you will have an emotional response to things, and I think it's very healthy. It helps us to connect with our physical body. I don't know if you've ever felt this way. I feel this way all the time when I'm not in a yoga practice, that I'm physically here, but I have so much stuff going on that I'm not centered, and it's just all out here, and I need to bring it back. By coming to your mat and doing physical activity with a mind connection to it, it's a game changer. Even in other forms of exercise, running, lifting weights, if you're all in and not zoning out, it's a better experience, hands down. Ease of stress, finding some inner peace. We know that finding inner peace is easier said than done. But yoga teaches us about commitment. If you ever need a little book to read, you could grab the yamas and the niyamas. It's a little book that we use in the yoga world, and it's basically our moral compass in yoga about treating others with respect and harmony and non-violence and non-stealing. And it's a very good little book to have on hand in case you just need a little extra guidance or some little fuels for thought throughout the day of how you can be harmonious with the surroundings and the environment. Yoga definitely helps us with coping skills. Yoga teaches us that there can be chaos around us, but internally we can cope with what's happening and handle our situation. And I think that's where we let go of the judgment, the competition, and expectations, because the outside world is always going to be chaotic. We know that. But we can have rest and we can find some stillness when we bring our awareness and our focus to ourselves. Sense of community going. I'm so thankful that we can have in-person classes now at the rec center. We started that last semester. It's been great. People are so helpful with wearing their mask and being socially distanced. It's just been awesome that we can all reconnect in a studio again. And I firmly believe that it gives us that sense of community that you just don't always get through a webinar or through Zoom. You need to be around people. So I'm very thankful for that. And of course, easing our anxiety and improving sleep. 100%. If I don't do yoga, I don't sleep as well. I would pick yoga over a ZQL or melatonin or whatever type of substance you use. Learning how to cope and breathe and just being okay. And that's what we're trying to do and achieve. I've mentioned a little bit about yoga instruction at the rec center, and I just want to take a second to talk about that and to talk about just the health and safety at the rec center. We require everybody obviously to have on a mask when they come in. We are very diligent on telling people to put their masks on if they have them down. I tell people all the time, to the point that it's not as bad. People get it. When they see an employee walking, they'll pull their mask up. The equipment gets cleaned. Our studios get cleaned. Like I said, we keep everybody socially distanced in the studios. We actually have it spaced out where you have to stand on a certain spot to socially distance people. We have lower numbers in classes, which I think is amazing, because I'd rather have lower numbers anyway. So I really do encourage you, if you would like to come to a yoga class. I teach Tuesdays at 3:30, and it's a 45-minute class, so it's short and sweet. It's in the afternoon, middle of the day, depending on your work schedule. If you can get away from work, if your supervisor approves it, come on down. I would love to have you. If you would like more information about, signing up for a class, you can call me, email me. My information's on the website. Just feel free to talk to me about it. If you want a tour, if you just want to come see the rec center, I would love to do that as well. If that's still not something you're comfortable with, we do have pre-recorded videos on YouTube. We have some live classes that we've recorded in the past, and then I've got a few on there from last semester that you can easily put on a 20-minute video and do some yoga. And then I always encourage you guys, if you have social media, if you have Instagram, if you have Twitter, Facebook, to follow us for all the updated information. So that's just UA Recreation, and when you type it in, you'll find us, and you'll be able to find all of our events and things like that happening. So I just really hope that some of you guys will be willing to try yoga and excited about yoga, and hopefully I kind of got you to think about it in a different way. So what I'm going to do now, we've got a little bit of time left. I'm going to go ahead and stop my screen share, just because I'd like to open up the chat and see what we have. If we have any questions, I'll kind of go through them now. So, I have one question about like holding your breath and doing like a retention exercise. You can totally do that. So it depends on how you feel with breathing, because if breathing's a little difficult, then obviously don't hold your breath. But yeah, you can hold it for a second or a little bit longer to hold that retention and then exhale it out. It's a greater release. It does increase your lung capacity. So you could do an inhale for 4 seconds, hold at the top, and exhale for 4 seconds, holding at the bottom. And I think that's a great way to practice some breathing. Does yoga help your core? Why, yes, it does. Yoga is very different from Pilates. Pilates is very core centric. Your core is not just your abs. And I think this is something that's really important for us to understand. Your core is anything that is not your arms and your legs, okay? So your core is obliques. Your core is transverse abs. Your core is abdominals. Your core is back muscles. Your core is chest. Core is meant to be strong. Think of it as a ripple effect. So when you throw a stone or a pebble or something into the water, it ripples out. That's the effect we want with our core. So when your core is strong, everything else is stronger from it, okay? So when you think about doing core exercises, don't just always focus on crunches. I'll be honest with you, I don't do like any crunches. I only do crunches in the form of Pilates exercises of holding a crunch position. Planks and things that are more isometric, that involve more core muscles to hold together, are more beneficial for your everyday activities. I mean, how often do we do crunches? You know what I mean? Like, you need to be strong in plank type of exercises, in my opinion. Let's see. Let me keep going down the list. If y'all would just be patient with me. Let's see. So cardio. So what do you think of cardio in yoga? Is it bad to start? Is it a bad way to start learning yoga? We don't have any cardio yoga classes at the rec center yet. We are a little short-staffed with yoga instructors, and so we are going to be hiring a handful of trainees that I'm working with right now to have some more opportunities for different types of yoga classes. We currently offer a gentle yoga, which is more of a beginner style yoga, easier like flows and things like that, and then a regular yoga class that's more intermediate. I think cardio in yoga is fun. I think there needs to be a balance. I think that's what's so cool about yoga. I think you could do yoga every day in a different style. Personally, I get cardio every time I do yoga. Cardio is when your heart is working to be more efficient. So when you do sun salutations and you increase your heart rate, you're doing cardio. So I think it's fun to mix different things in. I would have a basic foundation of yoga. If I'm new to yoga, I wouldn't necessarily do a power yoga or a cardio yoga class. I would start with a basic foundation before jumping into those things. But yeah, I think it's fun. I think it teaches you how to kind of cross train and do different things. Relaxation yoga. So we have a Be Well yoga class. That's a restorative yoga. We didn't offer it this semester because of the equipment. There's a lot of blankets and pillows and that type of stuff. And so with COVID and cleaning, it was just something that we didn't feel safe offering. But yeah, our gentle yoga class would be more of a relaxation yoga currently that we offer. And you can hope to see more of that stuff in the fall. The maximum number attendees in our class is only 14 participants, which is kind of small, which is good. So we keep everybody distant 6 feet. We actually had this 6-foot pole that when we were mapping out the studio, we were like, you know, like trying to distance ourselves. But we went from, in our yoga studio, offering 30 people in a class to half that size. In Studio A, we would offer 30 people. We're half that size now. So we're 14 plus the instructor who teaches up at the front. So that's been fine. Like I said, I personally like the smaller classes selfishly because I can have more interaction with my participants. I can you know, kind of see everybody's form a little bit better, know what kind of cues I need to give. And so it's a better experience in my opinion. So yeah, smaller class sizes. I love it. And I'll be honest with you guys, we've been so spoiled with the smaller class sizes. If we do go up in our class sizes, it won't be by very much. In fact, it may even stay where it is, just because of the safety for everybody. And that way we can just offer more. And then we're able to, you know, get people in there. I think the only class that kind of suffers from smaller numbers is like our cardio classes, where you like lots of people in there, like our days class, which is the cardio dance class. The more people you have, the more fun it is, I think, like a party. In yoga and strength classes, you want smaller numbers. So I think that's the only drawback. Do y'all have any more questions? I'd be glad to answer some more. So I do have under Q&A, how many days per week do you suggest practicing yoga? To be honest, it kind of depends on where you are in your yoga journey. I think yoga every day is perfect because you could do different styles. If you're new to yoga, I would start out with 2 days a week, and then I would go up from there. You're going to be listening to your body. You are going to be sore if this is something new. You're going to be sore in some different areas that you didn't realize you had muscle groups there. It's just waking up the body. So I would start with 2 days a week doing yoga. And then I would listen to your body, kind of do a self-reflection of how that felt, and then increase it, you know, maybe the next couple of weeks. I like to increase my physical activity in 2 week increments. If I haven't done anything for a while, I'll increase it every 2 weeks. But again, everybody's different. And yoga is a practice. It's not something that you achieve on day one. It's something that you do every single day. So your yoga practice could be on Monday, 20 minutes of light stretching and breathing. And then maybe Tuesday, a 45-minute, a little bit more intense class. Maybe Wednesday is just some breathing and meditation exercises. I do have a question about some online instructions. I would always check out our YouTube channel because I'm biased and I think we're great. But there's some really good beginner stuff on YouTube. I don't have an instructor in mind. I could find some. And if you want to email me, my email address is whitney.pape, P-A-P-E, at UA.edu. And I could do a little research and help you out. But anytime I've looked up beginner yoga on YouTube, I have found some really good stuff. Avoid the stuff that tells you to stand on your head. We don't want to do that. Oh, and people are putting stuff in the chat. I love this. Adrian is great on, I'll check that out too. So you guys check out Adrian on YouTube. Oh, Tiffany, you're cracking me up. Being a desk sitter, any poses to do while sitting? One of my favorite poses to do is called Pigeon Pose. I'm going to scoot back a little bit, and so maybe you can see me. Okay, Pigeon Pose is you still can't really see me. Maybe you can see me in my mirror. Is crossing your ankle over your knee, sitting up tall, and just hinging forward. That's going to stretch out your piriformis, which is that muscle associated with sciatica and like sciatic nerve pain. This is a great one because you can literally sit at your desk, cross your ankle, flexing your foot. You got to have your foot flexed, and then hinging forward and breathing. That's a good one I would do. Number one for your hips, hamstring stretch, kick your foot out, do a stretch forward. So that was just a straight leg stretch forward. Anything you can do to stretch out the legs. And then of course that back extension with that chest stretch. Those are huge. Those are really gonna, Tiffany's already feeling it. Yay. Yeah, let me put my email real quick in the chat. And that way you guys can shoot me an email. Because I would love to answer any questions. And like I said, if you want to come to the rec center, if you just want to see what a studio looks like, because I know there's a lot of hesitation with COVID. We're touchless with swiping the action card to come in. Oh, sciatic nerve stretch, Mary. It's just hard to see me. Let's see. Maybe if I scoot back even more. Take your ankle across your knee. My foot is flexed. It's not relaxed. It's flexed. You got to always have it flexed. And you're just going to hinge forward. So you can kind of see me in the mirror. you're just going to hinge forward. I'll show you standing, but I would do it like this. Can y'all kind of see that? Turn to the mirror. Look at y'all. Y'all are awesome. Okay. See if this helps. It's hard to get the angle. Can y'all see that better? Flex your foot across your knee, and then I'm just hinging forward. So there's a difference. There's not a rounding. Rounding would be this. You have to hinge forward with a flat back because of the anatomy. When you round, you get into the spine. You want a flat back to hinge from your hips. Does that help? Yeah, I love it too, Mary. That's like the best stretch. It's like one of my favorite stretches. You can also do it lying on your back. So if you go home at night and you like need a good stretch, lay on your back, cross your ankle over your knee, and then pull your knees into your chest. Yeah, those of you that have issues with sciatica and sciatic nerve stuff, you need to do that pigeon stretch. You definitely need to do that's number one in yoga is do that pigeon stretch. And you know, you don't want to force it. It's not something that you want to like crank yourself into. Like let go of the expectations. Everybody's different. You know, that's the cool part is everybody has different, you know, ranges of motion. So just, you know, practice that stretch. And I don't know if you guys can tell, but the moment you do one little bit of stretching and breathing, I mean, I'm talking like a minute or 2 minutes, you already feel good. Okay. I got a couple questions in the Q&A that I'll try to answer. So some good poses to do as a beginner. All of the warrior poses, which are, I'll show you real quick. Like a warrior 2 pose, you can kind of see me in the mirror, where your toe is pointed one direction, your other toe is pointed the other, and you hold. That's a great beginner pose to do because it's teaching you hip opening, and it's pretty easy just to hold it. Another one that I love is, this isn't necessarily a yoga exercise, this is more of a just plie squats. I'll turn to the side. Toes are pointed out, arms are up, and you just kind of do, we call them moonflowers. So it's a hip opener. So you can decide how low you want to go. You can take your arms out of it, and it's a turned out position. So my toes are out, and I'm squatting down and up. It's going to stretch your inner thighs. It's going to build a little energy. We do that a lot in our warm-ups for sure, which is super helpful. Let's see. All right, well, I think our time is coming to a close. I've enjoyed speaking with you guys. And, you know, like I said, shoot me an email. I'd be glad to talk to you if you just want to call me and talk about some stuff. I teach yoga on Tuesdays at 3:30 at the rec center, and it's 45 minutes. And so if you don't have a membership, just shoot me an email and I'll get you in. I'll get you a day pass. You can come in one day for free and just, you know, check it in. So my email address is whitney.pape@ua.edu. And if you scroll up, you should be able to see it because I put it in the chat. And you can always email wellness. They can get you my contact info. And on the UREC website, if you go to, I think, meet the staff, just scroll down and you'll find me. And I'd be glad to help you out. Let's see. I do have a couple more questions and then I'll let y'all go. Y'all are great. Those of you that have joint issues, maybe bad knees and hips, that'll get better with yoga, 100%, because most of the time the issue is coming from a different area that is exacerbating the knee pain. And so if you can focus on some different areas to strengthen maybe the hips and the back, you can definitely kind of work through that. And so you always want to, you kind of, you know, limit your range of motion, obviously, if you have some issues. So I do have a question about some hard copies of stretches. If you email me, I really honestly don't mind typing a few out for you. If you would like to, you know, do a Zoom session or something where I just, you know, show you, I really don't mind doing that at all. And most of the time when you Google some of this stuff, you're gonna find the basic stretches. My advice is always listening to your body. 100%. If you do something that causes pain, don't do it. If you do something that causes like some muscle strengthening and you can feel the work, that's a good thing. Some of it is kind of hard to tell the difference, but yeah. Okay, well, yeah, I guess I'll just leave it at that. And you guys have a wonderful rest of the day. This recording will be posted on the Work-Life Balance website. So that's why I hit record so I wouldn't forget. And I will see y'all next time. Good luck with yoga and let me know if I can do anything to help. Y'all have a good day. Bye.